again, we got 7 assignments within the 70%. And then, each one of these last two count more. This one counts twice as much to each one. This counts 4 times as much as each of these earlier ones. So it breaks down to 9.1%, 91% the worksheets, 9.1% for the COVID story, 9.1% Murphy story, okay? Megalomania, again, the rewrite is due 91.1%. It's due next week. And then this one will actually count 18.2%. And again, with this story, the deadline is delayed until Thursday, okay? Which is what, the 15th? No, 14th, okay? So that's 18.2% of your 70%, okay? All right. What's that? That'll be due the last day of class, May 2nd. Okay, and I'm gonna go over that a bit. That'll be 36.4% because it's 4 times. So these last 2 assignments actually count more than 50% of your grade in written grade. Okay. All right. Yep. So, and like I said, I mean, because they're going to try to, this one will definitely mean it's going to incorporate everything we've talked about this semester pretty much. So, and you have more time than anything on that. The only difference is that there's no rewrite on it. Okay. So we really got to work in class to make sure that, like, I can see what you're doing. I know what you're doing, that sort of thing. Please pay close attention to the instructions for that, which I'll go over in a minute. Okay. But again, with the weather story, and I'm repeating this also for the tape. I just want a general story next couple weeks. It's just, no big exciting news, just basically like it looks like, but just basically supposed to be a mixture of showers and like sunny weather over the next couple weeks as the weather's supposed to warm up. That looks like that's going to be like the general lead. Okay. That's and you want to think again in terms of inverted pyramid. And I would say again, like you point out specific examples in the story, particular days that are actually supposed to be better or more unusual or unique or new than others. And so far, again, Thursday with the weather, the temperatures going up to 80, that maybe would be something that would highlight up high in the story. And then you get into the students, you get the students from the class, or wherever, any students, if it doesn't begin class, students to get the reaction to the weather, and again, some of the things we talked about is like, how does it affect them? Well, 2 things that come to mind right off the bat, again, are the clothing they wear. That's a thing, okay? Again, like, what do I wear? Do I have to drag around a coat? You got these days, like in this time of year where it starts off at like, this morning was cold, right? It starts off at like 40 degrees and then it ends up at like 70 in the middle of the day and you're dragging this coat around. That's a pain in the ass, and that's what matters to people. It affects their morale, affects their spirit, but also the wet, obviously the commuting. How many people here commute? Yeah, so how do you do with parking?
Parking, it actually hasn't been that bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
I usually just park in the or even by the next to
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I know 18 can get really slick, with the rain and everything. We're supposed to have that, so you want to, the thing about New Jersey is that we don't live in San Diego. Okay, so while we don't have like the big wild thunderstorms and that sort of thing, and that's what we do actually, but we do have like bad weather. My daughter, she had COVID on her birthday in January, so we had her birthday party on Saturday. So anyway, she goes to a school actually up in Hudson County. It's not really exactly a guy who can afford private school, but whatever. So anyway, I'd actually like pick them up in her friends in South Orange, Hoboken, and Linden. And the last ride was horrendous. It was from South Orange to Hoboken, and it was starting to rain. And New Jersey, because of the rain, has a lot of potholes and the trucks and stuff like that. And she didn't actually get physically ill. like, but her friend who lives in Hoboken was getting physically ill, just nauseous and everything, just like with all the bumps and everything. So that affects us, so, all right. All right, so this is how everything is breaking down percentage wise, okay? All right, and of course, 30% is your class participation grade. Of course, absenteeism figures into that. I actually have to say that I'm probably going to be very lax on that now because it looks like we've had some issues lately, and those people who didn't show up initially, I'll just say, like, actually, you've done a really good job showing up lately. So I appreciate that. So I'm probably going to go, and you've also, those who didn't show up right away, also have generally done a good job asking questions, making sure that they improve their grades, stuff like that. So, so I intend to go lenient on that. Okay, I'll just say it, right? I can say it at the end of the semester, right? So, but I do want to make sure everybody gets all the details on the data journalism assignment, which is again, please stand. I have not made a final decision on this yet, but I may go virtual on Thursday, okay? Which means that we would actually have a Zoom class, and I'm going to take attendance for that one, okay? All right, so that one you got to be there, okay? All right, so, but, and it's going to be redundant probably because I want to make sure everybody gets this right here, the data journalism assignment, which is the last assignment, okay? Because there's a lot here to unpack. All right. That's right. So yeah, actually, let's just first, let's do. Like I already put the rewrite for the graphics and writings assignment, which is due 2 weeks from now, okay? Even though it's, I mean, I know, it's due, the first, that might be a little confusing. The initial assignment is actually due now on Thursday, but you'll have a week and a half to rewrite it, okay? All right, once you get it to me, all right? I'll send out a note about this later, all right? By then, I'll make a decision by whether I'm gonna go virtual or not on Thursday, okay? And then again, the Megalomania rewrite is due a week from today, right? So again, you can go to Bill if you have additional questions or anything like that, okay? And now this one, the data journalism assignment. Oh boy. So here we are. So what is this? This is actually, again, combining all the elements of what essentially digital, the 5 tools I've talked about. Anybody remember what I talked about? I haven't repeated that a lot in the semester. 5 tools of digital journalism. Anybody remember that? What is that? It is one of them. Oh yeah, almost like overlapping. Video, photo, editing, yes. And what do I mean by editing? Basically meaning self-edit. And this one actually going to be tested on, like I said, that tool number 2. You're going to be tested more than ever because you're going to, there's going to be no rewrite, okay? So you really got to actually edit it this time. You got to basically, and then what I strongly suggest do is actually send it to me beforehand, okay? And give me an idea, like if you're going in the right direction, okay? All right. And of course, there's the reporting / writing part of it, okay? That's number 1, all right? And the 5th one is graphics. Now this one, you're actually going to do a little bit of graphic building, okay? All right, so you have to really kind of pay close attention to these instructions. So data journalism is actually something that has actually, you know something, I'm going to do this, has actually really kind of like become, I mean, God, I'm almost like telling you guys this, you should be telling me this, has become extremely interesting, not interesting, but to people in general. Okay. And I mean, it's not just in terms of like stories, but things like Yelp, where they have like lists and stuff like that. Okay. You know, these are essentially what they consider, I guess, the top restaurants according to Yelp ratings in New Brunswick. People love this stuff. Okay. This is becoming extremely like fashionable and interesting to people, and it makes news because now with the web, you can actually compartmentalize stuff, okay? You see all these things out there like, the best movies ever. You see that like pop up on Twitter a lot. My son was like, you gotta do Letterboxd. Let's see here. I wonder if I can actually come up with, I came up with like what I consider the most overrated movie list and the most, yeah, I don't really see anything here. Anyway, I don't know how to call mine up. I made a list what I consider the best movies ever. I put Shawshank #1. I'm sorry, I love that movie. Let's see what else. What was my top 10? I'm going to say that just to be controversial. It's early, right? Let's spice things up a little. Oh, come on, man. I got Shawshank #1. I got Do the Right Thing #2. Okay, I think that was a seminal movie. Anybody ever see Do the Right Thing? No? It came out in 1989. It was done by Spike Lee, and it basically kind of, I think, foreshadowed a lot of the racial strife we've seen in the last, especially with police shootings and things like that. And actually, it was not just foreshadowed, it was talking about what was going on at the time too. So, and I remember there was a big controversy because it wasn't actually nominated for an Academy Award, and everybody in the freaking world thought it should have been. Let's see here. Ugh, there's a lot of ads on this site too. Get out of here. Okay. This is also the slowest computer in the world. Yeah, I have, you're gonna think I'm old. Well, I am old. I have Shawshank Redemption #1, Do the Right Thing #2, Godfather #3, Apocalypse Now #4, Schindler's List #5, Bonnie and Clyde, which is a movie that changed all movies in 1967, #6, Taxi Driver #7, starring Robert De Niro. What am I thinking? Does he have anything new in here? Jaws #8, Fargo #9, Goodfellas #10. And I'll take a more modern one I have on here. I have #23. I have Dark Knight. I know that's not so new anymore. I have Get Out, which is fairly recent, #32. I have Star Wars at 33. Empire Strikes Back at 26. So yeah, then my probably more controversial overrated list. I have an overrated list because I felt like I needed to, right? I put Gone with the Wind #1. I really don't like that movie. I'm sorry. I also think it's racist. Birth of a Nation, which is incredibly racist, is #2. I can't understand why that was actually like, on anybody's best list forever. Casablanca, which actually was a well-written movie, but I have it #3. Wizard of Oz #4. A lot of old movies. And then you're gonna hate me for this one, okay? I have #5? Coda. Oh. I'm sorry, but I enjoyed the movie, but I don't think it was the best picture of the year. I'm sorry. I just don't. I mean, I love the message. I'm sorry, I just think it was kind of a little too cliche. I'm sorry. Okay. I have Titanic #7. Ooh, my daughter hated me for that one. Yeah, I've got like a bunch of ones that are actually like, should never have actually like won the Academy Award or whatever. And then I have my best bad movies list ever. And #1, a little dated here, is I have Weekend at Bernie's. Anybody ever see that movie? Oh, it's a laugh riot. It's a sick joke, but anyway, I have Jackass #2. That's basically movies that I consider. What is this? That's basically movies that I felt were like just overhyped. And, sorry, no, the bad movies are actually movies I felt were underhyped. I felt that they were actually like, just give me a second here. I felt like either the critics like didn't recognize the entertainment value in it, or it was so bad that it was funny, right? There was a movie that came out in the 80s called The Fly, which is supposed to be a serious movie. I laughed throughout the entire movie. Okay. All right. Anyway. So this is a fun thing for people to do. And now they're actually doing stories on it. Okay. They're doing whole stories on it. Okay. And actually, a lot of times we do this when we do weather stories, we do lists. One of the things we do is we do the inch totals from the snow. People love to see like where there's, how much snow fell in their area. Okay. All right. So as your final assignment, you're going to incorporate all elements of digital journalism, specifically data journalism, into a story that focuses on Rutgers tuition. The details of are below. Okay, but first a little lesson and what does this all mean? That means you'll be doing a story and you'll be doing self-editing. There is no rewrite, and you'll put together a photo, a video, and some graphics. Okay. All right. First, some explanation on data journalism. Typically in data journalism, the story is very similar to the stories you've already done. With the main theme, basically what you're doing is you're writing stories about a trend, okay? Whether it's best movies or worst weather or whatever, or tuition increases for the last 5 years, if it's been all 5 years, okay? That's actually what the story is going to be about, okay? People like to see things like, people who get to their like 30s and 40s and start owning houses and have to pay a lot of taxes and stuff. I like to see lists that show where does their town rate in terms of taxes in New Jersey. Okay, the state comes out with reports that basically talk about school rankings, things like that. Like they'll come out with SAT scores. So I do lists that basically show like how each town in New Jersey performed SAT on their SATs and things like that. Okay. So basically, you see it usually like in the form of this. Yes, this is actually something I did a few years back. We used to do this every year. For the third year in a row, New Jersey has released its controversial rating system that graded every school on a 1 to 100 scale. System some educators say paints. I mean, with a trend, you're not necessarily going to always find controversy like this, but this one we did. Okay. And then what you do is you get into some explanation about like, why that, why there was a controversy or what is significant, as we did with the weather, as we're doing with the weather story, what were maybe significant points to make about this? Maybe there were specific towns or school districts that, performed above expectations, who, what, where, why, when, right? You want to like get that into the body, and like I said, you want to maybe get into some explanation of like how this came about, how this list was developed, perhaps. Okay. And at the bottom, typically, a lot of times it's not always at the bottom, but a lot of times, but mostly it usually is the bottom. It's so long. We have the list. Okay. See the Marine Academy of, I think they call it MAST, I think, right? Is at the top. Mendham High School. I don't know if anybody's ever gone there. 100%. Okay. And then you got a lot of these kind of magnet schools at the top. It's funny, I never see like my area schools from where I grew up in here. I grew up in Ocean County, which is where Point Pleasant is. All right. There's another one that we've done. Most New Jersey school districts with most drug alcohol cases. I know some of this is probably like a little bit too lurid perhaps for people, but it is a report that New Jersey comes out with. The number of New Jersey school districts has sizable. We actually, not only that, we talk about like, which, you basically point out what's significant. Again, thinking of inverted pyramid. What are certain points we can pull from the list that may be significant and worthy of pointing out outside the list, right? And one of the things is that there's been some school districts that have like bigger increases than others, okay? And there's maybe some explanation for that because they added vaping to the drug alcohol list. How about that? So, so some places actually, like it says, Mawa had among the highest increases in cases. So what we do is you pull out, like with the weather, you pull out with it and you put in the actual story itself, maybe some significant points that rise above others, you know, that adds layers to your story, okay? Adds information, adds, again, answers the who, what, where, why, when questions, okay? All right, and then at the bottom, we have a list, okay? All right. Anybody have any questions so far? Okay. And like I said, NJ.com loves to do it too. Actually, I think we just stole the idea from them. Yes, and of course, you know, you have to pay a subscription for them. The average property tax bill in New Jersey rose to a record, blah, 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 the average property bill. So this is actually a list of all the towns and basically, you know, of course you have to pay for that and their tax rate, okay? You can see the story identifies a trend, provides a little detail on that trend, such as what does the list mean? Who is at the top of the list? How was the list developed? There's maybe a paragraph or two with that. Okay, you want to stay in third person. Don't want to say, you don't want to say, I looked at, I've seen this sometimes people do this. I looked at Google. I don't want okay? Just say the list, you know, this information was pulled from Rutgers news releases, whatever, which is what our story's about. There's also a lot fewer anecdotes in these stories, if any. It's mostly a lead and transitions, okay? Introduce points and back up the overall theme. But actually, the difference in this one, though, is that you're actually are going to interview students, okay? So that's where you'll get your anecdotes. It's a story about Rutgers tuition. So at the bottom of the story, which I'll get into in a bit, you're going to actually like include reaction from students, okay? And actually, to help you guys out, I created a discussion point. Okay, so you don't, so you have to interview people who are in class or interview people interview people like in your dorm or whatever. Okay. All right. So here's a typical structure. Okay. So you have a lead, you know, again, like more than 300 school districts have more than 50. I'm just pulling it out of nowhere. Substance abuse cases in 2016, 2017. You have a transition. It's usually, it's like, actually it's a little different formula. I mean, every story has transitions and anecdotes, but it all depends on like what the news is. If it's like something that's more feature oriented, that sort of thing, you have more anecdotes. If it's something that's more straight news, you have more transitions, okay? Transitions meaning like, here's one point about that. Here's another point about that. Here's another point about that, okay? You know, what is those? So basically, you know, actually, I probably should have had like a lead that said basically like what the trend is for the tuition, because you know, then it goes into like some details about that. What do you look for? Like, what caused those tuition rates to go up? Maybe it's one of the things you look at in one of the couple paragraphs. You know, what were some of the years you could pull out? You know, that were bigger than others. And then I did a video with a reporter from the National Park Press. He did not want to appear in person. Because he's dealing with his father who's been sick and he's in his 80s. So he did he and I did a video together to talk about this subject and other things. And then basically also how he just gets information in general as a reporter. So, all right. So I'd like you to actually watch that video. I might actually show it in class too. So, all right. All right, so here's what we need to do for this assignment, okay? So please read it all the way through here, as it says. Please find through Google, okay? And doesn't actually have to be necessarily just Google, but that's a good place to start. Please find through Google information on Rutgers tuition hikes or non-hikes over the last 5 years. I found, okay? It's actually not that hard to find, and you have to use the types of things we've been talking about this semester. And I've talked about keywords and search terms. That's how you find Rutgers tuition increases. You basically, what would be like some important keywords or search terms for Rutgers tuition hikes? I think I just said them, didn't I? Rutgers tuition hikes, right? So that means going back to 2018 and identifying each year, whether there was a hike or not and what it was, okay, if there was one, all right? All right. And once you identify the trend, okay, that's gonna be up to you, okay, to do that. You're gonna provide Rutgers explanation for doing so, which again, you can find through, I mean, I'll show you like how, I'm gonna show you in a second how to, what's up there, but basically, Rutgers basically explained away basically why they had to do this. It may not be like believable, but this is what they did, okay? Okay, so let's just talk about how to get there, all right? So maybe you go through Google, okay? You do Rutgers tuition, and maybe you do like hikes or increases, doesn't matter. Something's gonna come up, okay? Usually what comes up is like, again, the biggest, newest thing, the newest one, most recent one. This past year, they raised tuition. Isn't that nice? 2.6%. And this is probably, I would say, I did something similar for my other class. Okay, so some people actually quoted, they didn't actually quote the news releases. They quoted, because the publications in the area, the newspapers and news organizations, they actually did stories on it too. You can quote them too, that's fine, right? See, like NJ.com did it, Patch did it, NJ.com did it, right? But probably the best place to go is right to the actual news release because they're actually giving the information, okay? All right. So 2.6 tuition hike increase for 21-22, okay? They haven't done 22-23 yet, so. And then, there's some explanation for why that happened. Probably a good way to start is basically just by identifying the trend in the first paragraph and then summarizing the next paragraph, the general reasons why they did it. And there are general reasons why they do it, okay? I mean, it's essentially this, I'll give you this away, it's the costs go up, so they raise tuition, that's what they say, right? And then, like I said, you could point out specific years, maybe unique, where maybe it was higher than most years. Maybe like there was 1 or 2 years where they maybe didn't even raise tuition. Actually, I'm kind of lying about that a little bit. You have to find out when there is actually like, they didn't raise tuition every year. That's a big hint I'll give away, okay? So, all right. If you want to, probably the best way to do it, actually, if you do it this way, you could do it this way. You actually click on Rutgers Today, and then you go to search, okay? And then if you actually do Rutgers tuition through their own search, not a Google, okay, you should be able to find the news releases. Might have to scroll down a bit for each of those years, okay? So there's the 2.61, okay? Maybe a better one would be increase. Let's go Rutgers. Anyway. Probably they are, if you do it that way, you will find them. I think actually probably the better way to do it is, again, you're going back to 2018. Okay, so probably the easier way of doing that is to do this, Rutgers tuition hikes, and put the year, starting with 2018 or 2017, actually, okay, whoops. And then, yeah, there you go, there's the Targum, there's Patch, but then there you go, there's 27-20, there's 17-18 right there, the news release, okay? And then if you do, again, the following year, again, you get, this is the Bergen Record, okay, Patch. Tap Into, it's another news organization. And then there you go. If it says Board of Governors, that's the ruling body for the university, 2.3%. See, I'm finding all the, see, that's all you gotta do. I'm asking you to do kind of like you did with the Megalomania, basically go beyond the scope of like what's just handed to you and just actually like dig into it, dig a little bit to get the information. The digging just involves basically a Google search, okay? Anybody have any questions on that? What you're gonna do is you're gonna put together a list at the bottom of your story. All you need to do is put the academic year and the percentage. If there was a year where they didn't raise it or 2 or whatever, you put 0. Okay. All right. Okay. So then all lower, after you include their explanations for why the tuition went up, maybe specific years that were unusual or whatever, or higher than others, or maybe years where they didn't raise it. I want you to get 2 or 3 students' reactions to this story, okay? This is a typical length, this story, so you should be able to fill this up, okay? 500, 800 words, right? I considered actually doing this longer, but then you're actually gonna have to do a video too, okay? So there's work involved. All right, because I want you to actually, in addition to getting those 2 students, and actually, like I said, to help you guys out this time, because we've had people out, I actually put a discussion point, or did I? Oh, I didn't, I'm sorry. I thought I did. That's bad. Here we go. Here, I'm gonna include it. So please participate. This will be also class participation, okay? What do you think about the workers' groups? Please say, please participate. Okay, I mean, it's really, do I need to say more? I mean, actually, I did that for the other class. I actually got mixed. Wasn't people just like raging about like, this is horrible. I actually got people who are like, you know, well, costs go up, so you got to raise rates. That's the way it is. You know? All right. Excuse me, I'm sorry. That's the only discussion point. So let's go back to assignments. Okay. Let me just check one thing here. Okay, it's there. All right, anyway, let me just make sure it's, everybody sees that. This is like from previous years. So, okay. All right, assignments. Okay. Okay, all right. All right, so then what I want you to do is, much like we've done before, is I'd actually like, so in addition to interviewing people in class or wherever, or getting people from the discussion point or wherever, or maybe friends of yours, I want you to pull one person outside of that for a video, a 2-minute video, just like we've done before. And get that person's more specific comments on how the weather impacts them or will impact them, okay? I mean, again, we're not exactly having harsh weather come up here. Not weather, I'm sorry, what am I saying? Tuition. Jesus, I'm okay. Anyway, you know, again, tuition impacts everybody, actually, I should say. So, you know, you get the general comments for the story, basically like, you know, how it impacts them, that sort of thing. And then you get maybe like somebody specific who maybe has like maybe a little bit more to say about it, and you know, like how they have to like work their butts off. One big change I've seen since I started teaching here in 2004 was that everybody works. You know, I used to ask people, I used to have them raise their hand, how many people out here actually have a part-time job? And it would be like maybe not even half the class. You know, but now people have to work, you know, to pay the bills. So, you know, so yeah, so I mean, two minutes following the typical protocol, the B-roll at the beginning, B-roll in the middle, an interview in between, okay? All right. You know, also please do a photo. A photo could be somebody, it could include your video subject, but then again, I want you to basically comply the rule of thirds, something that basically shows them student hard at work. Maybe if you were able to get them at work because they have to pay the bills or something, you know, something that basically has something that, you know, tells the who, what, where, why, when, especially the where and the who, okay? You show them where they are and who they are. Having a person in the photo humanizes the photo, okay? a photo about tuition increases, I mean, it's not just a real estate shot with people walking on the street, okay? It's usually like somebody who maybe is like showing a little bit of the stress of being at college and that sort of thing. You know, there's some indication that it's actually somehow connected to the subject, okay? So, yeah, all right. Does everybody understand me on that so far? All right. Please provide a list. I've talked about this already. This will be part of the graphics portions of your assignment, okay? The stories often incorporate and theme their stories around these lists. That would be a list that merely includes the academic years, percentage hike or non-hike, those, and then these are the years we're looking at. So that's basically at the bottom of your story, just list them, okay? Okay. And this one, I'd like you to actually try to get to me within the next week or two, okay? Because then I can send it out to people and you get results, okay? This is actually the graphic building part. Why do I ask you to do this one to build a graphic as opposed to the other ones? Because polls are a very popular thing in media nowadays. I know they're not scientific, but they're actually something that basically gives some sort of glimmer of something, okay? You can include the results in your poll. In your story itself, just like a paragraph, okay? Typical way to do it, people do is Google Forms. Oh, yes. Hold on one sec. Okay, hold on one sec. Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay, so basically do a blank, and basically what we have is essentially have options. You have a title question, you type in the question right here. You know, I would suggest making maybe like multiple choice essentially, okay? And then you basically say, you have just a general question that says like, how do you feel about Rutgers tuition increases over the last so many years? And, you know, maybe some options, maybe not to be yes, no, but it could be like, you know, something like, I don't like them. Number two, I understand why they have to do it. Number three, I feel mixed about it. Okay, use like some creativity there a little bit if you can, it's fine. All right. And then what you do is you basically just send me the link to your, make sure this is in the public setting. We could talk about that in the next session or everything, because some people might have some difficulty with this. But basically try to get this into public, make it just a public view so everybody can see it. Okay. All right. Yeah, this is actually like, this is where you get the link for it right here by clicking send. Okay, that's the link. So you just send me the link. Okay. Okay. Is it this one right here? I just want to make sure. You add collaborative Chrome. Anyway, we can get to that, but basically make sure that this is in public view. Okay. All right. All right. And I mean, if there's other ways of doing polls too, you know, but this is the way I've actually like really encouraged people to do it, is just do it this way. Okay. And then what I do is I send it out to this class and I send it out to my other class, which has 22 people in it. So, all right. Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions so far? Okay. Like I said, please get that to me within the next week or so, okay? So I can distribute it, okay? And then this will be due on May 2nd, which is supposed to be the last day of classes. I'll let you know whether actually we'll have class that day or not. Okay, I might just want to say like, just use the day to finish, you know? You know, and again, some additional notes on the framing of the story, okay? So, did Rutgers tuition increase each year for the last 5 years? Did it increase 1 year, but stay the same over 4? I strongly encourage you to do this early and then report to me what you found, okay? It's always best to get the information straight from the horse's mouth, so I strongly urge you to do a Google search and search for a Rutgers tuition increase along with, we've already talked about that. Here's a big thing, okay? I've had people go to websites like this one, they're like compiler websites. This is actually also a lesson, not just in basically digging up information, but also knowing where to go, okay? You want to make sure the source is legitimate. There's a lot of trash sites out there, okay? And somebody said to me look, it's all right here. And I was like, well, I don't know what the hell, if I never heard of it, then screw it. What's this college tuition compare? I don't know what that is, I mean, I would rather you go to some place that actually they report the information accurately, like the Rutgers news releases or NJ.com or even Patch or something like that, okay? Again, you want to make sure you're attributing information, okay? So if you got information from the Rutgers news releases, you say according to Rutgers University news releases. If you got it from a mixture of the two, you say according to Rutgers news releases and media reports or something, or NJ.com or wherever, okay? Just make sure you let people know you didn't make this stuff up, okay? Let them know that you got it from somewhere, okay? Okay. All right, and again, the same deal here. Just make sure everything's attributed. Point out certain years. There was 1 year that I think was actually 2.9%. I'll give that away a little bit. That was, I guess, the highest number. So maybe that's a year that would stick out. There's another year that would stick out, but I can't really explain why. You might know what I'm talking about. Okay. All right. So already, but there are at least a couple years where that stick out, and basically there are reasons in actually the Rutgers news releases and then the media reports about why they made the decisions they made. Okay. So you can highlight those details and actually in the class, okay? All right. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay. On it all? Sure. I said, yeah.
In the poll, there's one question asking what their official reaction is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just basically, I mean, you don't even have to do the poll before they find out. You can just, because they'll know. They generally everybody knows they've been paying more on tuition, right? We'll just get that away. You've been paying more than most of you are sophomores, juniors. Yeah, you've been paying more since you first got here. Okay, so that impacts people. A lot of people actually are able to take care of that. So and not only a lot of families. My son actually made the decision to go to a state school in another state. My oldest son, he went to William and Mary in Virginia, because in New Jersey, Rutgers was not giving him any kind of financial aid. They gave him some, but not much. So it was actually kind of even out. Here we have the state school in our own state. A lot of people used to go to Rutgers because they actually couldn't get into Princeton. That was a big thing 30 years ago. And then also B, because they could afford it. But now it's actually a lot of people becoming unaffordable, so that's an anecdote right there, some people have actually transferred out of here for that reason and stuff. So all right. Now I'm also gonna I'm gonna create a discussion point for the weather. How's that? Because hold on 1 second. Because I know maybe not everybody got somebody to talk to there. So All right, how's that? Okay, so that way, you know, it'd be a little bit easier just to get that information, okay? Especially if we possibly go virtual on Thursday, okay? All right. So can't pin both, right? You know, all in, wait, is this in student view? I'm sorry. Hold on a second. You know, I'll unpin this one. There you go. Okay. I'll pin the weather one. Okay. Let's make sure that you can see both of them. Good. Okay. All right. If you have any questions on that. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna let you guys go, okay? People have been a little bit worried about illness and sickness and stuff like that. That's another reason why I want to get people together. So we'll just end it there, okay? And just like I said, look for, might come as early as today. Some note about whether we're gonna go virtual. I am gonna take attendance, okay? We do that, okay? All right. Thanks very much. Then after that, I want to actually go back into class and I want to